We're here today, as you all know, to come together to remember and to mourn and to commemorate those who lost their lives in the genocide which took place 20 years ago in Gujarat under the chief ministership of Narendra Modi. To vow that we will never forget what happened in 2002 when more than 2,000 people from the Muslim community in Gujarat were brutally murdered, many more were raped, and more than 200,000 people were displaced. And many of those people, after 20 years, are still without homes, are still living in camps. And there's still no justice for the victims of Gujarat, despite the immense courage of people like Bilkis Bano, who testified to what they had seen and what had been done to them. Despite the immense courage of people like Zakia Jafri, who is still fighting for justice in the courts after the murder of her husband Ahsan Jafri, the MP. There is still no justice for the Dawood family, the 3 British citizens who were on a holiday in Gujarat and who were viciously attacked and murdered in unspeakable ways, and whose family is still fighting even to have their remains brought home to them. Some people have been jailed and then we see that they are out on bail or they are released. Some people shamefully have been acquitted. But those who gave the orders, well, we know that the person who gave those orders is now the Prime Minister of India. We know that Narendra Modi has the blood of the Gujarat victims on his hands, and we are never going to let him forget that. Never, never. Narendra Modi, blood on your hands. So since then, of course, the BJP, which saw Gujarat as a laboratory, has continued to carry out horrific massacres and pogroms, and we've seen this in Muzaffarnagar in 2013. We saw it in Delhi just 2 years ago, and every single time we have been here at the Indian High Commission. We were here 20 years ago in 2002, and we will be here until the fascists are driven out of India. And we take our inspiration from all of those movements and all of those people on the ground in India who have never given up, who have never allowed themselves to be terrorized. We take our inspiration from the women of Shaheen Bagh, the women who sat courageously, took over public spaces and knocked down forever that racist Islamophobic trope about Muslim women being passive. They sat there in protest against a law, the CAA, which denies Muslims equal citizenship and tries to turn them permanently into second-class citizens, excluded from the nation. And those women said no. We take our inspiration from the farmers' movement, which fought back when Modi and his corporate cronies Adani and Ambani wanted to take over the agricultural sector for their plunder. And we take our inspiration from all those individuals who are fighting back, from the very young woman Muskan, who we saw in that video, how she stood up to those mobs shouting Jai Shri Ram, those lynch mobs which are so familiar from all of the people who have been lynched since Modi came to power. We take our inspiration too from those young schoolgirls who went back to college hand in hand, holding the hands of their schoolmates in hijab and said, we are not going to let you divide us. We take our inspiration from every single person who is standing up to Hindutva fascism, because that's what it is. That's what we'll never forget. This is fascism, and we have to stand in solidarity with those who are fighting it and give the lie to Modi's claim that the diaspora is on his side, because all of us are saying, no, this is not happening in our name. So we've got a number of people with us today who I want to welcome. And first and foremost, we're very honored to have with us today Imran Dawood, who has come down all the way from Batley. And as many of you know, Imran Dawood is from the Dawood family. He himself was on that trip in Gujarat when his uncles were horrifically murdered, and he's been bravely fighting for justice ever since, which means not only fighting the Indian government, but also the British government, which is of course more interested in trade than with getting justice for its citizens. So I'd like to hand over now to Imran.